What's up, beloved? This is Gene Kennard once again coming at you, and I got a little something that I want to share. A little something that's been on my mind for a while, man. And I'm just like you, I got to put this out there, and I want to see how y'all feel about this. I mean, it's been months and months. I was watching this podcast. I'm just gonna jump right into it, but y'all know who I am, Big Gene Kennard. You know what I'm saying? The 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 husband to the wonderful, the brilliant, the beautiful Courtney L. Kennard, the wise wife mentor. Yeah, I said it. I love that woman. But also the co-founder of Meta Marriage, and just bringing you topics of discussion regarding dating, relationships, marriage, divorce, second chances, all of those things. And if you haven't gotten the book already, Courtney and I wrote a book called 14 Keys to Transformational Love to Go from Dating to I Do and Beyond. It's on Amazon. You can get it. I believe it's $10.99 for the book, and I think it's $9.99 for the not the audio, but the Kindle version. I'm sorry. If I got it reversed, just know that it's reversed. So anyway, today's topic, I'm talking about trauma. And I believe I witnessed trauma in a relationship recently. A few months ago, I was watching a podcast, and there was this couple on there. I'm not going to say the name of the podcast, but it was a couple, and the husband was a pastor. His wife, obviously, is the first lady. I don't remember what church they pastor or whatever, but that doesn't even matter. What's crazy is that they talked about their relationship and the struggles they had in the beginning. With infidelity. He was cheating on her, for a long time. And he was verbally abusive to her. I don't think he was physically abusive, but he was emotionally abusive, mentally abusive, and he certainly was verbally abusive. And, the host was asking him the story, and she spoke first. And the way she was talking, because she was talking with this nervous energy, she was talking kind of fast, and it just seemed like she was still dealing with that, like she was still reliving it, even though they said that things was much better and that they were good and they had gotten past it. But it just, to me, now I'm no psychiatrist, I'm no psychologist or anything like that, but it just seemed like no, they're not. She's not fully over it because it was just unsettling when I was watching it. And as they were recounting all of the stuff, and the host of the podcast, he would ask, the pastor, the husband, a couple of things like, "Wow, did you really do that?" He was like, "Yeah." It's like he was chuckling. Like he didn't have any kind of remorse. He didn't have any kind of shame. He was just like, "Yeah, yeah, I did this and I did that. Yeah, I used to call her. Oh, I called her my backup on my team," or something like that. His wife, he called his wife the backup, and his side piece, I guess, was the number one. And it's just crazy. But that's not even the craziest part. The craziest part is that his wife used to iron his clothes when he was going out, and she knew he was going out with the side piece. She would iron his clothes. She would prepare his fits for him to go see another woman. She would make sure he had food. She would feed him, make sure he ate, make sure he was all good. Because she said she was graced to do this. I'm like, what does this have to do with grace? You co-signing him cheating on you. You preparing him to be with another woman, and he might not come home. I think there was times they were saying that he would be gone days at a time. Now, that was bizarre to me. And she said, "Listen, I don't recommend this for everybody, but I was graced to do this. God graced me to do it." I'm like, "God graced you to do it?" No, that doesn't sound right to me, but that's between her and the Lord. That's between him and the Lord. But it just tripped me out because it was like he was having a good time with this. He had this posture of like, yeah, it was like that. And yeah, I said this and I said that and I did this and I did that. But then he was like quoting scriptures. And I'm like, that didn't even matter to me. I'm like, I don't care if you quoting scriptures. All right, you memorize some scriptures, big deal. But the posture was anything but scriptural. The posture was anything But repentant or remorseful, the posture was like he just went right back into like, I'm a street dude, I'm a player, and I just didn't understand that. It tripped me out, and as a man, I'm looking at her, and like I said, the way she was talking, and it was like she was still traumatized, and she admitted that she had experienced some trauma in her life prior to that, and he knew that. There was some issues when she was growing up in her home, with her parents and whatnot. And I think she ran away from home at one time, and because they grew up in the same, I think they were in the same town. I don't know what state, but they grew up in the same town, but they didn't go to the same schools. But they knew each other. So they known each other since they were teenagers. And but they hooked up, and I think they hooked up maybe somewhere around when they was in college. And they're not young people; they're middle aged. So we're going back a long ways. And come to find out, though, in terms of him and how he was moving, he used to hang out at a certain place, a certain area, and in the midst of the conversation, come to find out that his father hung out in the same area and did the same thing. And his grandfather, his father's father, hung out in the same area and did the same thing. So it's 3 generations of adultery and fornication. So there's a spirit that needed to be broken. I don't know if he ever broke that spirit, because when I saw him sitting there, like, had that posture, like, that's what I did, yeah. I mean, I'd have been embarrassed. I'm like, that happened. And, but this dude was like, he's like joking around. He's laughing. And his wife is just sitting there like, yeah. So I'm presenting this to y'all because I have no words. I have no words for that. But as a man, well, I'm going to give you a few. As a man, first of all, to me, that was disgusting. And secondly, to still be in that mode, to still have that in you. It's like, it looked like he could revert right back to that type of activity, because it seemed like he had this pride about the names he called her. Because there was some point she said that he was telling her like he hated her, he couldn't stand her, and the Bible tells us that light can't have any fellowship with darkness, and that was clear. Like, she had a light, and he was surrounded and rooted in darkness. But actually, there was some darkness with her too, because to put up with something like that, because she felt like she had nowhere else to go, and he probably took advantage of that, because that's what it seems like. It seems like he looked at her like, where else is she gonna go? She ran away from home, and she ain't got that relationship with her family. She with my family. She with me. Yeah, I'm gonna do what I want to do, and she gonna deal with it, and she did deal with it. I never heard of grace for something like that. I mean, you say you use grace to be a doormat, use grace to be taken advantage of, use grace to be disrespected. If you're a daughter of the Most High God, He doesn't want that for you, and He certainly didn't want that for him. Him calling himself a man of God and you behaving that way. So, but supposedly they got past all that, and then they're in a much better place. But it just seemed like you're really not in a much better place, because there was just this disturbing interaction that I was witnessing. And so I'm saying like this, fellas, don't try this. Don't try this with your ladies, and ladies, don't try this with your guys, because it doesn't have to end up like that. That was just weird to me, but to each his own. But no, there needs to be mutual respect. Not to take advantage of someone in that manner. That's just, or in any manner, that's just sick. That's just ridiculous. And she's still wounded. To me, she was clearly wounded. So maybe, I don't know if they went to therapy or anything like that. I don't recall if That was it. And if they had been going, then they need to continue going, because from what I saw in that interview, that was still some trauma that she was feeling and still dealing with. And listen, she said she don't recommend it for everybody. I don't recommend that for nobody. For nobody. Yeah, you don't get into a relationship, or you don't get into a marriage to be a doormat for somebody. Now, you're supposed to be building something together, building something that's going to be sustainable, building something built on respect, building something that's going to, especially in leadership roles in the church, man. I mean, what is your congregation going to say? Yeah, I'm sure that members of that congregation watch that, and oftentimes a lot of people, we make excuses for the pastors and different leaders and whatnot, but to me, there's no excuse here. There's no excuse. That was just trifling, but it doesn't bode well for members of the congregation that might be looking to get married. They see something like that happening with the pastor and the first lady. It was like, well, what chance do we have? What chance do we really have? If they're going to have something like this, I might as well stay single. I can do bad by myself. I might as well stay single and just keep on doing my thing, so I felt a little something there, so I had to try to loosen it up. So anyway, I'm just bringing this out, man, because that was just bananas to me. Yeah, that's something that I certainly cannot condone. I won't condone. I don't care if it's a pastor, I don't care if it's a bishop, I don't care if it's an apostle, whatever. Them titles don't mean nothing to me. They really don't mean anything to me, especially if your character doesn't match it. But you're in a leadership role, and that's the example. Yeah, that's a problem. But he was following the example of his father and grandfather. Unfortunately. And unfortunately, she came from a troubled background. So this was an opportunity for them to come together and reset their bloodlines, to really come together and like, nah, we're going to stop this right here. We're going to kill this right here. We're going to uproot this spirit of infidelity, this spirit of fornication, this spirit of lust, this spirit of disrespect, this spirit of hatred, because he told her he hated her and he didn't want to be with her. But she was just like, we're going to be together. Because God said, I'm going to be your wife, so I'm just going to be your wife. We're going to be together. That's between her and the Lord, but I don't believe that the Lord would ever sanction a relationship like that or call for somebody to endure that type of abuse. What, just so you can say you're married? Nah, I don't believe that. But that's what she had in her mind, that God had graced her to take care of her husband, even if he's seeing another woman. I don't know, because the Bible speaks about adultery. It's one of the commandments. Thou shalt not commit adultery. But she was supporting it. So how are you putting that on God when God doesn't even, he speaks out against that in his word? So why would he grace you to do something that he doesn't condone, that he condemns? I don't understand that. But, anyway, I could not. I could not. And I know definitely my wife would. I mean, we don't have those problems. We don't. We good. But that's real though. That was some real trauma. Looking at the wife and seeing how she was sitting and how she was speaking. It was like she was trying to justify what she did by saying that God graced her for it. But there's no justification for that. And God ain't had nothing to do with that. That was you. You made that choice. You made that decision that you was going to hang in there because you probably felt like you had nowhere else to go. And that this was your only option. This was your best option, this guy. And really, she had all the right to divorce him He was leaving the house to go spend time with another woman, and days at a time. The man would be going over the weekends. Maybe he came home to preach, but other than that, but she helped him do it. So she's just as guilty to me in my eyes. She's just as guilty. But that's a result of trauma. And it was sad to see. And it was, and, you know, like I said, as a man looking at him and him not having remorse and chuckling about it, it's like, I mean, some people may say that well, maybe he was traumatized. I didn't see trauma. You know, like I said, I'm, you know, I don't have any kind of clinical background in that, but just being a guy and being somebody who was out there for a while, it just looked like, you know, he was just reverting back to like, yeah, that was me. I was that dude, you know. So anyway, I'm talking about it because I pray that nobody goes through this type of stuff. You don't have to go through this. You don't have to be victimized. And don't put God in that. You know, that's just some religious made up ideology to me. Because I don't know anywhere where it says, oh yeah. I mean, even with Abraham and Sarah told Abraham to go have a baby with her servant because she was like, look, ain't nothing happening here. I'm old, I'm barren. So if you want an heir, you're gonna have to get with this young girl. Abraham was like, all right, you sure, baby? As he was moving towards her. I'm imagining that's how it went down. But even with that, you know, it wasn't like she was saying, all right, yeah, go have your fun. She was like, nah, if you want an heir, you need to go there. But, you know, that's not what God said. God didn't tell them that. God said that they would have a child. God told Abraham that he would be a father of many nations. You know, so, you know, we have to really seek God in everything, especially in relationships. Seek God and see what he says. And we got to wait on the answer. Sometimes, we get traumatized because, you know, we want an answer right away sometimes. And when we don't get that answer right away, you know, we feel like, oh, I got to do something. And then we start thinking that God is saying something to us or showing us something, and he may not have, you know. And so when she said that God graced her to do that, she might have been just hearing her own voice and hearing her own trauma speak for her. You know, she could have been making that mistake, but it's just bananas. So anyway, I wanted to speak on that real quick because it just threw me for a loop because, nah. No, that sister made that decision to stay with him. It had nothing to do with God gracing her to do that. And I said she had every right to walk out and start over. But, you know, and I'm going to say this too for the guys. Listen, man, you got a wife, and, well, even before that, you got a girlfriend, you know, but you don't know if that's going to be your wife. Don't waste her time. Don't string her along just because you want to have your cake and eat it too. Let her go. Let her go and be a queen for a real king. Because if you don't see her as your queen, you don't see her as somebody that you can spend the rest of your life with, you don't see her as somebody you can build something with, something that'll change the world, let her go. Let her go and be with somebody that she can change the world with. And then you can find somebody that you can change the world with, but for the better. But don't waste her time. Don't string her along. Don't have her thinking one thing and really you're doing something else and you have other thoughts in mind. Let her be who she was meant to be, who God meant for her to be. And if you don't see her with you like that, let her go. Let her go. Life is too short, man. We can't be just wasting time on people that just don't really have our best interests at heart. You know, and that's just real. And that's in any kind of relationship. You know, so sometimes you just got to move on so that you can move up. Real talk. So, yeah, I'm going to leave y'all with that. I'm going to get off. But I just wanted to talk about that real quick. And let me know what you think. You can leave me some comments, and and I'll answer them. So stay tuned for more meta marriage messages, and you know, my wife and I we're working on some things behind the scenes, and we're going to be releasing them soon. But I'll talk more about that as in the coming days. But I appreciate everybody who has purchased the book, and those who have given positive reviews, and those who have been following us and whatnot. I know things have been a little inconsistent in terms of putting out content, but we're here. It's because we're working. We're working on some stuff. We're doing some restructuring, but we got some good stuff coming. Got some good conversations that's going to be coming, and we look forward to partnering with you all to be able to engage and to see what's on your minds. And, this is stuff that my wife and I we did this like 10 years ago. We was talking about relationships and stuff, and we were dating at the time when we were talking about where we were in that particular time. But now we can talk about so much more because we're married. We've been married for a minute, and life has changed, and but we can share the progress. We can share the process, and I'm looking forward to it. So we know it's going to bless you because it's blessed us. So with that in mind, I'll be talking to you guys real soon. Peace and love. Have a great week. Have a great day. Talk to you soon. Shalom.